Kamble sir, please share it ASAP.
We are live now.
Yeah. So a very
There's
good.
a light in the background, so I don't know if you can see me okay or not.
Yes, sir, I can see you well.
Okay, all right.
So a very good afternoon to our esteemed resource person for today, Professor Ram Singh sir, my worthy colleagues from both the institutions, and the lovely participants who have been with us in this journey of this 1 week online faculty development program on recent trends and challenges in research. So today we have with us Professor Ram Singh, and sir will be delivering a lecture on the different kinds of fellowships in research. But before I invite you, sir, to deliver your lecture, I would take this pleasure in introducing you to the participants. So, Professor Ram Singh is in Department of Economics, Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. He has completed his postdoctorate from Harvard University. Professor Singh was a visiting professor at Brown University, Department of Economics, Providence, USA, Commonwealth Fellow at London School of Economics, Department of Economics, London, UK, visiting Associate Professor at University of Hamburg, Institute of Law and Economics, Germany, and Erasmus Mundus Scholar at K University Leuven, Faculty of Business and Economics, Belgium. His research interest includes contract theory, law and economics, public-private partnerships, infrastructure, property rights, law and economics in India. Professor Singh is the recipient of several prestigious fellowships and awards, to name a few: Commonwealth Fellowship in Economics, Erasmus Mundus Scholarship in Economics, Ronald Coase Fellowship in Institutional Economics, and Fulbright Senior Research Fellowship in Economics. He has co-edited "Existence and Efficiency of Equilibria: When Care is Multidimensional" by Routledge, and "Infrastructure: Source of Growth or Bottleneck" in the Handbook of the Dynamic Indian Economy. His articles have appeared in several national and international peer-reviewed journals. Thank you so much, sir, for your consent for this FDP at such a short notice. I'm really thankful to you, sir. I now request you, sir, to preside over the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Nidhi, for this very generous introduction. Also, thank you for having me interact with the participants in the ongoing course. So I thank you, I thank the college, Faculty Learning Center at Ramanujan College, my colleagues from the college, and dear participants. I'm happy to be with you this afternoon to talk about fellowships, research fellowships in different disciplines. These are stressful times for all of us, and the fact that you have chosen to attend faculty development program and a session like this speaks a lot about the level of motivation you have, and also perseverance and internal resilience you have, and our society has been needed at a time like this. So it strikes me that when Newton came out with 3 laws, I'm sure all of you have read about Newton's laws in school or at a different point in time. It was a coincidence that when Newton was working to formulate, to give concrete shape to his ideas, that finally came to be known as laws, Newton's laws. So that time, his society, his country were also facing a pandemic, plague. So the point I want to make is that even in hour of crisis, it's a nightmare, national level crisis we are undergoing. But the thinking must continue, research must continue, whatever is our responsibility, be it teaching, be it research, it should continue to the extent it is possible under the circumstance. And ideas, research can throw up interesting ideas that can change the science, that can change the social science, economics, political science, law, at any point in time. So no effort should be wasted to the extent circumstance allow us to think, read, write. On this note, I urge you all to pay attention to what I say during next half an hour. I will speak for half an hour to tell you the important aspects of any fellowship program, any important aspects of an application for research fellowship. Thereafter, I will ask you to engage with me by way of question answers. Since the participants are a set of researchers coming from different disciplines, it's not going to be possible and desirable for me to talk about subject-specific scholarship programs. But my focus, instead of talking about subject-specific research fellowship programs, would be to talk about what will make an application, research fellowship application, strong application. I will also talk about how can you go about finding for research fellowships in your respective discipline. In this process, I will draw upon my knowledge, but more specifically, I will draw upon my experience with the research fellowships. As Nidhi mentioned in her introduction for me, I have been lucky to get several research fellowships, and during the course of application for various research fellowships, and also when the fellowships were offered and I undertook research under various research fellowships, I learned quite a deal, and I want to share my experience with you. Now, let me start by talking a little bit about research fellowships at PhD level. My focus would be on postdoctoral research fellowships because I'm assuming that some of you have already a PhD degree and will be looking for postdoctoral fellowships, postdoctoral research fellowships, and many of you may be in the process of acquiring a PhD degree soon. But some of you may not have started a PhD degree yet and may want to do PhD, and you should seriously consider doing PhD if you want to stay in the profession of teaching. You should seriously consider a PhD. Don't think it is only a matter of only a tool instrument for career advancement to get increments and higher pay scales. More than that, you should look at PhD to create a profile for yourself, a research profile for yourself, a public intellectual profile for yourself. I believe that everybody, each one of us has ability to create a niche area where we know in our individual capacity, we know about a subject much more than anybody else around us touch. It's possible. All we need to do is to have some motivation and put in efforts consistently. We should be reading, thinking about a topic of our interest. And in the duration of 3 to 4, 5 years, you will see that if you persist with this approach, you can build a profile for yourself. You come across much more knowledgeable about a particular subject, about a particular issue than most other people. And here I'm not saying that you should have such a profile where you distinguish, you have an edge over others. I'm not saying this only to cater to our sense of ego. No, it is our duty to supplement knowledge base of our society, of our students, and we can do that exercise, that duty we can discharge if we carve out areas that have not been excelled by our colleagues in the department, in the university. So to provide complementary knowledge to the university, to students, it's important that we carve out niche areas. And these areas can be from mainstream issues, and they can also be new issues that are at the frontier of research or teaching in your respective area. So, and PhD is very helpful in all this process. So if you don't have PhD, I suggest you seriously consider doing a PhD. And when you think of doing a PhD, you should try to do a PhD with a research scholarship. In India, there are various options available to you to do PhD on a fellowship in India. UGC's CSIR, Department of Science and Technology, if you come from sciences, SERB, Science and Engineering Research Board of India. So they have various programs and various research scholarships meant for PhD students. And some of these are very generous, like say Prime Minister Research Fellowship for PhD student is a very generous fellowship. It gives you, the scholarship amount is much more than the salary you get as assistant professor at entry level. And there's some sense of prestige attached to the Prime Minister Research Fellowship, research scholarship. So there are various options available, and you should explore these options by visiting UGC, CSIR, Department of Science and Technology, Science and Engineering Research Board of India. These are the places you can visit and get to know about these scholarships. So once you have a research scholarship, then your funding need is automatically taken care of. In some cases, you should also check. Some universities have a scheme that they give you if you are in a regular employment with a university, then maybe your university has scheme to give you paid leave for PhD. So that option should also be exercised, and if it is there, then you don't have to really worry about funding of a PhD. So you can exercise that option. But if you are thinking of doing PhD from abroad, again, there are various possibilities. Commonwealth Fellowship, Commonwealth Commission has fellowships, has scholarships. So for doing PhD, for funding PhDs. But most important form of scholarship for PhD is through a process that requires you to write GRE exam. Especially if you think of applying to American schools, Canadian schools, universities, and in some cases UK as well. Actually, a GRE exam is important for most scholarships wherever you apply, mostly in North America, Europe, including Australia and New Zealand. So if you are thinking of doing PhD from abroad, you should prepare for GRE seriously. So this was specific to PhD related fellowships, scholarships. Now your strength of your application into a PhD program had several important pillars. One is your GRE score. So if you take GRE, you should prepare seriously for GRE and try to score as high as you can. It's very important. It's considered to be a signal of your ability. The other important pillar is your academic record. Third academic pillar is the letters of recommendation that you include in your application. Letters of recommendation are or can be from your teachers, from your former teachers. In some cases, if you are working on a research issue with somebody, and if your co-author collaborator happens to be an established researcher in a faculty position in a university, so that person can also write a letter of recommendation for you. Basically, a good letter of recommendation should come from someone who can claim to know you as a researcher. Set of these people are people who have taught you. They have interacted with you. They know about your aptitude. They know about your intellectual potential. So somebody who can, first, it's very important for letter writers, for you to get a good letter of recommendation, it must come from somebody who has who can credibly argue that I know this person well, I can talk about, I know him or her so well that I can talk about her research potential, her prospect as a teacher. So only your teachers can make such a claim about you. Your research collaborators, if you have been working with a professor, with somebody, they can make such a claim about you. In some cases, your employer, maybe the principal, or in a university department, head of the department, may also make such a claim because they have opportunity to observe your teaching, to get feedback about your teaching, about other initiatives that you have taken. One other than this, there's one more option that can be created. By created, I mean that your teachers, you can't choose your teachers now. You have already been taught, and your employer is also given. But if you need more letter writers, you can think of working with somebody either on a research problem, research issue, or as a research assistant to a scholar that commands your respect. So if you offer your research assistantship, then that provides an opportunity for your mentor to observe and assess your research potential. And then the person with whom you work as a research assistant can also credibly write a good letter of recommendation, arguing why he is in a position to assess your research potential. So the first important aspect of any letter of recommendation, a good letter of recommendation, is the letter writer should be objectively in a position to assess your potential. The second important aspect is that the arguments presented in the letter should be objective. It's not good enough to say that Nidhi is very good. Just take her in your PhD program, otherwise it will be a mistake for you. It's possible to make such a statement in a letter of recommendation, but it has to be argued. It has to be argued why Nidhi will be a good choice for the PhD program Nidhi is applying to, for instance. And this has to be, again, the argument should be based on either interactions or somebody who has seen Nidhi's work, has seen her as a student, can make such statements credibly. So it is important to substantiate contents of letter of recommendation objectively. And letter, of course, should be strong. So that's also a very important pillar of a good application. And this is something that you can try to work. It's possible for you to work to manage a good letter of recommendation. There's yet one more dimension to a good PhD application, which is called writing sample. Some universities allow you to write some universities actually ask for a writing sample. Some Indian universities ask for a writing sample. American universities ask for writing sample, and many other universities allow you to include a writing sample as a part of your application. Now, what is a writing sample? It is not something that you write a page or two on anything of your choice. A writing sample is actually should be about your research interest, and it should be a demonstration of your ability to identify a research issue, to develop it, and to argue out research, leading to some conclusions. The conclusions don't have to be thoroughly thrashed out, but something that is based on argument. So basically, if you were to write a research paper, 3-4 page research paper, with very good quality, 3-4 page research paper, this is how your writing sample should look like. So overall, PhD application is assessed on these grounds, on these pillars. So at least 3 pillars out of these 4 mentioned by me should be strong for you to stand chance at a very good university with funding. The funding assessment is also based on this criteria. So incidentally, what I said about the importance of letter of recommendation and writing sample, that applies to postdoctoral fellowships also. So let me now talk a little bit about postdoctoral fellowships. There are several agencies, international agencies, that grant postdoctoral fellowships. Nehru Fulbright Fellowship Program is one of the leading ones. Commonwealth Fellowship Program, the Commonwealth Commission has Commonwealth Fellowship Program. That is also a leading form of postdoctoral fellowships across various disciplines. Then we have, India has bilateral agreements with government of Canada, with Australia, and several other European Union countries. So where there is a provision for funding postdoctoral research. So these are some of the leading institutions that provide for funding. Most postdoctoral funding fellowships are not through these channels. Most universities have postdoctoral fellowships of their own. Most departments have. And how do those fellowships come about? The leading form, the mainstream form of a postdoctoral fellowship in the US, in UK, is that, the faculty members, professors in a university, they get research grant or research project. And in their research grant, research project, they ask for manpower, so to speak. In manpower, they ask for junior research assistants, for example. They also ask for postdoctoral positions. And once they get their project approved, research grant approved, then they get money for hosting postdoctoral fellows also. So most of postdoctoral fellowships are through this channel, which is that individual faculty members in university departments get research project, get research grant, and a component of their research project, research grant is faculty postdoctoral position. So you can say that this form of postdoctoral positions, it is specific to individual teachers, professors. Therefore, it becomes challenging how to identify such positions. You can go to Nehru Fulbright Commission and then learn everything about the postdoctoral fellowship provided by the commission. But in such a cases where the postdoctoral fellowship is part of research grant of a professor, how do you find out about such fellowships? The way to go about is that you have to look at the profile of individual departments. So you have one subject. So for your subject, you go to various universities and look for if there is an advertisement. Most departments, so if a professor advertises for postdoctoral position, they put up advertisement on their department webpage or university webpage. So at a suitable tab, you can find a suitable tab where you will get to know if there are any openings of postdoctoral positions in your subject. And you should carry out this exercise regularly at different university departments to explore possibilities. You can also write to professors asking them if they have any postdoctoral positions available to them. Now, but before you write to a professor asking about postdoctoral position, it's important for you to convey to the professor that you are interested in the research area pursued by that professor you have chosen to write to. To be able to do so, it's important that you are familiar with his or her research work. Therefore, if you have a professor in mind with whom you would like to work, it's important for you to follow his or her recent writings. And it's also generally people are tempted to write to explore possibility of getting scholarship in any area whatsoever. In my view, that's not a good idea. You should, first of all, you should have good knowledge of what issues interest you. And then you should try to find postdoctoral fellowships in the research issues that interest you, rather than first finding a research fellowship and then trying to adopt whatever is the requirement of fellowship. Such approach that where you are after postdoctoral position regardless of the subject or issue, research issues or research agenda of postdoctoral fellowship, if you take such an approach, first of all, it's less likely to succeed. Second, even if you succeed in getting fellowship, you will have a difficult time. So for research, it's very important that you are interested in research area, in the research area you have chosen to research on. So you enjoy research can be a pleasant experience, but also extremely excruciating experience if you have to do it by force. If you have to do research in an area that doesn't interest you, it's not going to be a pleasant experience. It will be painful experience, and it will also be unproductive experience. So my suggestion would be that first of all, you have done PhD, only then you are looking for postdoctoral positions. Therefore, you already have some research issues. If you want to branch out to areas other than your PhD research area, by all means do that. But first educate yourself about the research areas you would like to do postdoctoral research in. Do that, do a lot of readings. Once you are sure that identify 2-3 areas where you will be comfortable, you think you will enjoy doing research, then you start the process for searching for postdoctoral positions. When you familiarize yourself with the different research areas, you would read, you would have already read writings of leading scholars in that area. Therefore, you would already know leading scholars, Indian leading scholars, and also international scholars who have made most important contributions in the area where you find yourself interested in. Approach those people, write to them, asking if they have any opening for postdoctoral fellowships. So not everybody will respond. Therefore, if you don't want to be disappointed, don't expect response from every person you write to. But some people will surely respond. You may be lucky, they may say that they have opening, or even if they don't have opening, they may put you in touch with somebody else, some other professor who may have an opening. So this process of looking for postdoctoral fellowships through institutions where institutions like Nehru Fulbright Scholarship Fellowship Commission, there the process is extremely streamlined. All you look it up, you can Google it, look it up, and all information is out there. But in many cases, you have to look for it proactively, getting in touch with, exploring web page of different universities, and also writing to people. So, but in this entire process, it's very important for you to come across as a knowledgeable in areas you claim to be interested in. So when you are applying for postdoctoral fellowship, remember you have already, so people know that you are already a PhD. Therefore, expectations from you will be of much higher order than expectations from a candidate who is asking for funding for PhD. So again, whenever you write to a person, a professor, a faculty member, a researcher abroad or in India, it's a good idea for you to include your writing sample. If you have publication, then you should include your publication as a part of as an attachment to your email. But you choose your best publication. Numbers don't count as much as the quality does. At times we feel that a longer count of publication is very good. It is very good if there is a quality. But if you have to choose between 10 publications of poor quality, average quality, versus just one publication of good quality, it's better to include one publication that has quality. And it's important, before you start seriously looking out for applying for postdoctoral positions, it's important for you to have a good quality published paper or publishable good quality publishable paper, so that the person looking at the paper realizes that even though it's unpublished paper, but it has all the potential to make it to a good journal. In your respective subjects, you know what good journals are. You also have read good papers. Therefore, you have some sense of what makes a good research and what does not. So for otherwise also, but most here we are talking about postdoctoral fellowships. So the quality is going to be very important. Other component is going to be the letters of recommendation, as we discussed for research for PhD scholarships. For postdoctoral fellowships also, letters of recommendations are important. And for the difference is that for PhD applications, the letters of recommendation can come from teachers who know only who know you only as a student. They really don't have to talk about your research output. But when you apply for postdoctoral position, it's important that your letter writers, they can claim to know about your research output. This becomes especially important if you do not have publication. You are still doing PhD, you are about to submit your PhD, and you are already thinking of postdoctoral position. In that case, you may not have publication yet, and you may still want to apply. So in such a position, it's very important that letter writers can claim to know about your research output and also your research potential. Most hosts would also ask for a letter of recommendation from your research supervisor, your thesis supervisor, because your thesis supervisor is expected to know most about your research. Then your statement of SOP, statement of purpose, is also important, where you talk about what excites you about different research areas. You should prepare a 2-3 page document where you talk about research issues that excite you, that you find extremely interested in. In those 2-3 pages, 3-4 pages, you should also talk about research by whom has excited you the most, has made you think about new dimensions. You should talk about the new dimensions, new research ideas that you would like to explore as a postdoctoral fellow. Then other important aspect for postdoctoral fellowship is that, to repeat, I said that publication is important, either at least one good quality published research paper, or at bare minimum, a very good quality paper that is not published but has all the potential to be published in a good journal. Then letters of recommendation. You would again need 3 letters of recommendation. So it's always a good idea, since you are going to be needing 3 letters of recommendation, it's a good idea for you to interact with different people about your research. Show your research to scholars from different institutions, different universities. If you are in a science department in a university, reach out to faculty in ICERs, IITs, reach out to research labs, scientists, show them your research, engage with them, try to collaborate with them, try to work with them, even if you have to work on honorary basis without any monetary gains. Because outcome would be that if you can impress those people, then you can hope to get a good letter of recommendation from them. So it's very important for you to reach out to different people and show them your research. In the process, also read about their research and try to relate your research with their research. This you should do during PhD or after PhD if you have already submitted your thesis. But all this must be done before you start seriously applying for postdoctoral positions. And again, when you write to a professor who you want to be your host during your postdoctoral fellowships, it's very important that you have overlapping research interest. Therefore, it's very important that you can relate your research agenda with the ongoing research by that professor. It's very important. Only then they will be receptive to your application. They will look at your email more seriously. And this also reminds me that it's the importance of being precise. So at times, we write very lengthy email. We hope that a lengthy email will impress upon the reader, the person we want to impress. But people don't have time. So let's not write lengthy emails. But if you have to write lengthy email or a lengthy document, make sure that first para in your email is interesting enough that the person wants to read, your reader wants to read the next para. This logic should be applied to emails. This logic should be applied, this rule should be followed when you write statement of purpose. You should assume that your reader is not going to be interested in reading unless you make her interested in what you are writing. Therefore, whenever you write, of course, we always write to express our ideas, our research ideas, our intent. But we should always think of the reader. We should always think of reader's perspective when we are writing. Our reader should find our writing accessible and interesting. This rule, I urge you to follow this rule in all your writings, in your informal email writings, in your formal email writings. When you think of writing a newspaper article, you think of writing a research paper or a statement of project, a proposal, or a project proposal, always try to follow this rule. Keep your reader not only at the back of your mind, actually at the back and front of your mind. Should be making things interesting and accessible to your reader should be your guiding principle. Relate your research. And the last piece for postdoctoral fellowship would be research agenda. In research agenda, you should put out research ideas, not research ideas that you have already worked on. Research ideas that are related to your research experience, related to maybe your PhD or some other research that you have done. But this should be new research questions, research issues that you would like to execute, carry out, do research on during postdoctoral fellowship. This document is going to be really the most important document, where you list the research issues you would like to explore. To be strategically smart, try to relate these research issues with the research agenda of your host, your potential mentor, who will be your mentor, your supervisor during postdoctoral fellowships. This also means that when you apply to different places, you should customize your application to different departments, different individuals. You can't have one document ready and then use that document to apply wherever you are applying. If you want to prepare only one document, that document has to be general document, and general document will not be very helpful. Your core, your research idea, I am not asking you to choose different research areas when you write to different people. Your research areas could be same, 2-3 research areas, but you should acquire art and knowledge to relate those research areas to this ongoing research undertaken by people who you are looking to be associated with. That means that every single department you apply to, prepare a customized application specifically meant for a specific professor, a specific department. That way you will be enhancing strength of your application. Then you should list in your research agenda, you should list importance of the research issues, questions you have identified. You should discuss how your research issues, you have identified how they are going to fill the gap in the existing state of knowledge in your subject. They should create value addition. They should be research issues that which can provide additional insight, additional knowledge on the subjects issues you have talking about. You should then discuss a little bit about the methodology you would like to adopt. The methodology component doesn't have to be exhaustive, because part of postdoctoral fellowship is to use this as an opportunity to learn from your mentors. Therefore, your reader, your host, potential host, won't expect you to have exhaustive methodology, but you should have at least some clear sense of how you intend to start research on research issues you have identified. So these are some of the important features. So my suggestion is, regardless of your discipline, you think of putting these documents together before you start applying for postdoctoral positions. Any postdoctoral position will have components. It will start from some email communication, unless it is with an institutional funding agency. So it will start with an email. So email itself should convey your research interest a little bit. It should include some writing sample, a completed paper. It should have other documents I have talked about. But it takes time to prepare all these documents. It takes time to have good quality publication. That means that you should, if you are thinking of postdoctoral fellowship, you should start working on these documents as soon as you can. And I remind you that the quality is going to be more important than quantity of your publication, your research output. So I will take a pause here, and I will let you ask some questions, and then I will respond to your queries.
Yes, sir. The participants have posted a few questions. So the first question is by Dr. Shivalang Rajmane, and he asks, is it possible for permanent faculty to take benefit of research fellowships like postdoctoral fellowship?
So, well, this is a question that is technical, not in scientific sense, but it's more in procedural sense. Perhaps you are talking about whether your postdoctoral experience can be counted as an experience when you are applying for career advancement, or you are applying for promotion, or higher positions. My sense is, my experience and my sense is that if you have applied for, if you are in a job already, and if you apply for postdoctoral position following the proper process of your institution, of your university or your institute, they allow you to benefit from that postdoctoral research experience also in all career advancements, including for promotions. But the point of this discussion is not to talk about those benefits. Those benefits are secondary benefits. The point of today's session is to discuss other benefits that come from postdoctoral benefits. So once you do PhD, a PhD is, what is objective of a PhD? Objective of PhD could be to get increment, to become eligible to become associate professor, and so on and so forth. But main objective of PhD is not this. These are collateral benefits that come from a PhD. The main objective is to train yourself on doing research. Many people think they know, they write something and they say, I have done research. So research word is used in generic sense. Journalists use this word. Many people use this. But PhD actually is a training that tells you how to frame research issues, how to go about doing research on research issues. It's a training in research. During the part of training, you also produce output. That is your thesis. But main objective of PhD is to equip you, to train you so that you can carry out research, meaningful research in other areas. So when you start PhD, in most cases, you are not independent thinker and researcher. By the time you have completed thesis, and assuming that it is a thesis that is completed with sincerity, it's a decent quality, good quality thesis. By that time, you have acquired skill, capability to think of new areas, to be an independent researcher. So it's a training that actually allows you to think of research issues, to choose your own research issues and carry out scientific studies on those issues. You could choose those issues from the literature. You could study the most recent papers in your subject and think of ideas. Those papers will also give you some idea, but you don't really have to do that. You could, look around in your neighborhood, in your state, in your village, in your city. You will see there'll be some issues, some related to science, related to economy, related to sociology, law, or political science. You could take up those issues, and since you have PhD, you have training in framing issues, in analyzing them in a scientific way. That's the objective of PhD. Objective of postdoctoral fellowship is to expand the scope of your inquiry, to bring more areas into your research specialization. It also is an opportunity for you to actually go to research at the frontiers in your subject. So, whenever you interact, whenever scholars interact with each other, they learn from each other. And a fresh PhD will learn even more. You have learned a great deal from your supervisor, but if you interact with other scholars, you will learn more. A postdoctoral fellowship is an opportunity for you to get a mentor from whom you will learn about new research areas, new research tools, and you will also network with people who are at the frontiers in your subject. That should be the objective, that should be the motivation for postdoctoral fellowships. And in this process, as I said, if you have applied for postdoctoral fellowships through your university channels, you will also get all the benefits, but those benefits are secondary benefits. Yes, Nidhi, that's my response to the question.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question is by Dr. Nitin, and his question is there any age limit to apply for postdoctoral fellowship?
Yes, there's a age limit, not always, in many cases. 35, most places have age limit between 30 to 40. I think you are eligible for postdoctoral fellowships till you are 40. There are some exceptions. Research organization, for instance, Max Planck Institute in Germany, Erasmus Mundus fellowships by European Commission. I think they allow you to apply till you are 45. But there's an age limit that varies from agency to agency. But if you are looking for postdoctoral fellowships with a professor as a part of their research grant, then it is up to the discretion of the professor, and therefore there is no age limit to answer your question. It only means that to respond to your question, rephrasing my answer, that younger you are, more options you have. But these options never disappear from your horizon. One or the other option will still be available to you.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question is by Dr. Esther, and she is asking, are permanent faculty members eligible to receive postdoctoral fellowship?
Yes, by all means. It's just that when you go on postdoctoral fellowship, that time most places will ask you to be on leave. That means that you can't take your salary and also fellowship simultaneously. But you are very much eligible to apply for postdoctoral fellowship while you are in a regular position, while you are holding a regular faculty position.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question is by Dr. Belinda, and she asks, if a person has completed his or her PhD and later gets a UGC MRP sanctioned, does it mean that the person has completed postdoc?
No, look, first of all, thank you for asking these questions. But I will urge you to make distinction between questions that are procedural, that will be, let's say, that can be answered by somebody who is awarding these projects, major research projects, or they would know whether in this particular case, I know the answer. If you have major research project funded by UGC, that's not postdoctoral position. No, your major research project actually may have a postdoctoral component. That means that a senior professor has applied for MRF, and in that project there is a provision for postdoctoral position, and somebody can be hired as a postdoctoral fellow as a part of the project. It's possible. SERB, for example, Science and Engineering Research Board, it allows for big projects, and in big projects you can ask for one or two postdoctoral fellows. But just by getting that project, you don't become postdoctoral fellow. So postdoctoral fellowships you get that title by following the process that I described. So MRF is not equivalent to you becoming postdoctoral. But this, remember, I have answered this question. Incidentally, I knew the answer, but I may not have, I would not know answers to many such questions. These are not academic questions. These are more technical questions. So if you are interested, if you have such questions, it's best to pose this, either read UGC guidelines carefully or pose these questions to the UGC contact person, or I can tell you even a simpler process. When you look at any project, when you are in doubt whether somebody will make you something will make you equivalent to postdoctoral position or not, so they generally mention this. If you don't find mention of it, then that means that there's very little chance that you can get postdoctoral fellowship or designation, title, or benefit from that scheme, from that project. So, for example, so even if MRF has a postdoctoral component and you get project, then you yourself can't call yourself a postdoctoral fellow. You can hire someone as a postdoctoral fellow. By the way, let me take this opportunity to tell you that University of Delhi, where I teach at the Delhi School of Economics at University of Delhi, and University of Delhi has been granted status of institution of eminence. So we have set up institution of eminence at University of Delhi, and institution of eminence at University of Delhi will be advertising several postdoctoral positions. They will come up, we have been hit by this crisis. Otherwise, those positions, postdoctoral positions, would have been advertised by now already. But they will come, and they will be substantial. They are going to be worth 1 lakh per month. But the standards are also expected to be high. But keep in mind that there will be positions coming at Institution of Eminence, University of Delhi, in all the subjects. Similarly, IITs, ISERs, they have their own postdoctoral programs. So visit their websites to learn more about postdoctoral positions at different institutions.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. The next question is by Dr. Madhu, and her question is there any value of PhD without any fellowship?
Okay, okay, all right. Madhu, so PhD is a PhD. So you should be able to answer this question. You can rephrase this question: is there a value for MA or MSc or MCom without a scholarship? Same answer holds for PhD. If you have a PhD, you have a PhD. Scholarship during your master's program, scholarship during your PhD program, they are enabling factors. That means that, on your own, not everybody can afford to pay for their expenses for 5 years to do PhD. If you get fellowship, then that side is taken care of. But the value of PhD does not depend on whether somebody got scholarship or not. Value of PhD depend on quality of thesis. Just like your value of your master's degree depend on your performance, on your relative performance in your batch. It doesn't depend on whether you got scholarship from your department, or you made a donation to your department, or you neither made donation nor you got scholarship. The worth of your MA master's degree is independent of all of that. Similarly, worth of PhD thesis, PhD degree is independent of whether you get PhD scholarship or not. It only means that you can afford to do PhD, even if you will not be able to afford doing PhD otherwise in the absence of a scholarship. It's only an enabling factor. It has no bearing on validity or sanctity of thesis or PhD degree as such.
Thank you, sir. The next question is by Dr. Ketan, and his question is, what types of fellowships are applicable after completion of PhD?
What type? Sorry, can you restate? The question is not clear to me. Nidhi, can you read? Can you two interpret the question for me so that I can respond?
He is asking, sir, what are the different types of fellowships that are applicable when a person completes PhD?
So I thought I tried to address this question when I said that there are some fellowships that are available through institutions like Fulbright Nehru Fellowship Program, Commonwealth Fellowship Program is other example. Erasmus Mundus programs are yet another examples of institutional fellowships. Then there are postdoctoral fellowships programs by Government of India, by SERB, by Department of Atomic Energy, Department of Science and Technology, UGC, and third types applicable, available are project funded postdoctoral fellowships. I thought I addressed this.
Yes.
Unless I'm missing unless I'm missing what you mean to ask, I had addressed this question.
Yes, sir. There's another question by Dr. Manoj. He is asking, is there any provision of joint research fellowship for two researchers?
So postdoctoral, yes, joint research fellowships. No, as such postdoctoral positions are for individuals. But generally, especially for third kind of, to repeat, the first kind of postdoctoral fellowships come through institutions like Fulbright, Nehru Fulbright Commission, like Commonwealth Commission. These are individual-centric postdoctoral fellowships. The third set, which is that you get a postdoctoral fellowship as a part of somebody's research grant of a professor. So when a professor has a research grant that allows that professor to hire, to appoint, to select postdoctoral fellows, those postdoctoral fellows are expected to work as a team, especially in biosciences, biosciences especially, in some cases in economics also, in development economics. Your mentor, while selecting you for a postdoctoral fellowship, will let you know that you will be expected to work, to do research in collaboration with other researchers. There you will collaborate, you will be required to collaborate with your mentor and also other postdoctoral fellows. So that's the set of yes. And answer to your question is yes, there are postdoctoral fellowships that require you to work in collaboration with other researchers. But any postdoctoral fellowship gives you an opportunity, even if it does not insist that you work as a team. Most fellowships allow you an opportunity to interact with other postdoctoral fellows at your host institution. you can use that opportunity to open up a collaborative research agenda, research projects, research papers. Yes, that's one of the objectives of postdoctoral fellowships, so that you can network. You can network in research sense, you can collaborate, you can exchange your ideas, start researching on in collaboration with other researchers at your post institution. That enabling factor, that possibility is there for every possible postdoctoral fellowship. Yes, that's right. That's my response to your question.
Thank you, sir. There's a question by Dr. Ganesh, and his question is, nowadays, degree college professors are not getting funding for research projects, even though the proposal has quality. Why is it so?
Well, uh, so you should pose this question. It's a serious question. I must admit it's a serious question. It's an important question. But this question should be posed. So when you get the chance, you should pose this question to funding agencies. My sense is that my sense is that perhaps may I ask if you come from social sciences? What is the subject you come from? Can we ask? Can I have name of this person? Can you, Nidhi? Can you ask if he comes from
Sure,
social sciences?
sure, sir.
So my sense is that, without waiting for the answer, my sense is that that in social sciences, the funding, research funding has come down. It has come down for degree colleges, but also for university departments. So for quite some time, that has been there. And I would like to believe that it's not a permanent cut in funding. It's perhaps on account of some procedures, or in any case, I hope that this is a temporary cut, and our funding agencies will start supplying funding grants again, and then everybody will benefit. But if there's a cut in grant, then unfortunately, degree colleges will suffer more. They should not. They should not, but as a matter of fact, they tend to suffer more. And reason being is that perhaps, assessors might be, first of all, funding agency may say that, instead of offering funding 1,000 research projects, we can fund only 700. So that means that somebody, including degree college researchers, will suffer. On top of that, if people who are in business of assessing, who are required to assess project proposals, if they have a bias, and bias could be not, I'm not talking about any bias, social bias. I'm talking, pure elitist bias. If as a person who has been asked to assess a research project, if you look at, if you look at the institutional affiliation of a researcher and then make your decision, then you are showing bias, elitist bias. If assessors suffer from elitist bias, then again, unfortunately, degree college scholars, researchers will suffer, which should not be. We should be able to overcome such biases. Here, I would like to add that, it may seem paradoxical, and generally we tend to blame our bureaucracy for this or that or for every other problem. But calls like this, who should get, the government decides how many projects will get funded. That decision is not taken by people like us. The government takes that decision. But who gets that funding within? Suppose government says that this year only 700 research projects will be funded. Government generally doesn't tell you which 700. That decision is taken by people like you and me. People like you and me are invited to assess research proposals. And if you feel that, some regions, some degree colleges have suffered, it's not a government that is to be blamed for. It's our community that might be exhibiting some bias in favor or in favor of against some institutions. So that's problem with us. We should overcome. We should be better than that. That means that we should we should look at research agenda, research project anonymously. Even if we get to know the identity of the PI, we should pay no attention to the identity of PI. We should pay no attention to the affiliation, name of the institution, college or university with which PI is affiliated. We should assess the project on its merit. If we do that, then the feeling like this, that degree college teachers, the scholars, researchers are suffering, that feeling will not arise. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Uh, the next question is by Dr. Mukund Kadam, and his question is there any way to complete postdoc when college doesn't sanction leave for the same?
Oh, all right. No, there's no way to complete postdoctoral fellowship. I mean, of course, you can go ahead and accept postdoctoral fellowships and complete it, but I will not advise you to do that. You say, remember, in many cases, such problems arise because the researcher didn't apply through proper, what is called quote unquote proper channel. If you apply through proper channel, that means that when you applied, your principal of your college, head of the department, or somebody in the university system had already signed on your application. If they have signed on your application and you get postdoctoral fellowship, they can't deny you. In isolated cases apart, they are not supposed to deny you. The denial comes only when you apply directly without taking your institution on board. So that's why I emphasize that you should keep your institution in the loop. You should apply through your institution whenever you apply, wherever you apply. You should, as soon as things take a concrete shape, before you make commitment to fellowship provider, you should get consent of your institution. If you don't do that, there can be serious consequences, because in that case, if you don't take up postdoctoral fellowship, then you will feel very agitated, and rightly so. On the other hand, if you go ahead and instead of, even though your institution has not granted its approval, but you have gone ahead and taken up a postdoctoral fellowship, then your institution will not give you benefits of, and there will be other technical issues, bureaucratic issues that will come up. So they should be avoided.
Thank you, sir. We have a question from Prajakta, and her question is, Sir, I have qualified GATE exam in mathematics. Then can I get fellowship for PhD?
Uh, Sorry, I really don't know the answer to the question. I think your examination itself will tell you whether you are eligible for a fellowship or not. So you don't need to ask anybody. You just look at the instructions, guidelines, information about the exam you have cleared, or ask your teachers, ask your seniors. They would know the answer. It's not my subject, and I do not know the answer to this technical question.
Thank you, sir.
Only thing I can say is that if this does not does not give you scholarship for a PhD, there are other schemes that are available to you. You can avail of those schemes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. There are a couple of participants who are asking this one question, and the question is, can you enlist funding agencies for the different types of disciplines, or can you suggest a source from where they can identify the funding agencies as per their own discipline?
Yes, I cannot list the funding agencies, but I can tell you a source, and that is very easy source, which is your smartphone or your laptop. And you have any internet browser, Google or any internet browser, you just type scholarships, PhD scholarships in mathematics, India, if you are looking for scholarships within India, or write, scholarships in mathematics in Australia or in US. Also, in addition to this, visit leading departments in ICERS, visit one or two ICERs, one or two IITs, one or two universities, and you will get all the sources of scholarship funding that are there. Every single one of them will show up. The list will vary from subject to subject. Therefore, it's not possible for one person to prepare exhaustive list. But you can do that. You can prepare subject specific list depending on your subject, and it's very easy.
Thank you, sir. There's a question from Dr. Valmik, and his question is, how many years can a permanent faculty take leave for postdoc?
For how many years? Well, it is something that it is something that depends on policy of your employer institution. Equally important is the duration of the postdoctoral fellowship. So any postdoctoral fellowship is of specific duration. For example, Commonwealth Fellowship is for 6 months. It used to be for 1 year. Due to funding cuts, they reduced it to 9 months, and now I am told it is left. Its duration is 6 months for social sciences, arts and humanities, and I think about year for sciences. Fulbright scholarship is for 1 to 2 years, but other scholarships, other postdoctoral fellowships can be up to 3 years. In biosciences, they can be up to 5 years. So it varies from subject to subject. The maximum duration of leave can be the maximum duration of a fellowship. But just because a fellowship is available for 3 years, it doesn't give you entitlement to demand leave for 3 years. Leave, all of us should remember, those of us in employment, we should know that as a matter of fact, leave is a privilege that our employer can grant us. It is not a right. It is not a right that we can demand. So keep that in mind. And I will also appreciate if you ask, what is a little surprising to me is that there have been very few questions on how to prepare oneself for postdoctoral fellowships. What can increase my chances, my candidature, strength of my application? Those questions are not there. Questions that should be posed to, let's say, section officers in your department or administrative officers in your college. Those kind of questions have been forthcoming. So from you, I expect questions on, what are important, how to identify a research issue that will help me do good research, that will improve my chances of postdoctoral positions. These, if I tell you that you are allowed for 2 years leave as a postdoctoral fellow, this statement can't be true. I can't, anybody telling you that you are allowed these many years, these many months leave, such statement will be bizarre because these rules differ from institution to institutions. Different universities can have different rules, different state governments, and therefore different universities in different states will have different rules. IITs will have different rules, can have different rules from universities. The point is that there can't be one answer to these technical questions, which, by the way, I'm not supposed to know, which your college administration, your university administration would know. So what we can discuss is the academic part of it, the research dimension of it. So anyway, we can go to the next question, please.
So there are no more questions for you.
Very good, very good. So I can tell you a little bit about, since there are no more questions, but we have more time on our hand. I want to share a few more things with you based on my experience. So I think the research that I have found most satisfying are the research issues that were identified out of some social concern. So we, as teachers, researchers, every day we encounter issues in our life. Those issues could be related to our students, challenges they face in overcoming, let's say, their economic hardship, economic backwardness, challenges they face if they come from rural areas, uh, the challenges that teachers face in improving quality of teaching, the challenges that our economic faces, our people face, the issues, the questions, research questions that are shaped by social concerns. Investigating those issues, researching on those issues have been most satisfying experience for me. I also learned in the process that we can start with any, so regardless of our discipline, whether we are a teacher of science or arts and humanities, so we can make progress on any research issue that we are interested in. And when we start research, if we are sincere about research, we will also learn that we are not knowledgeable enough to answer those questions. That means that any research issue allows us to acquire more knowledge, learn more from writings within the subject, and also writings from other subjects, other disciplines. I have found it extremely useful for my research to talk to people who are in action, who are either affected by the issue or are involved with policy making, or are actors in some sense, who are the decision makers, actors on the ground. Interacting with them, collecting data from them is something that I have found extremely enriching experience for my research, and personally satisfying also. And the research that leads to good quality output, the research issues, the methodology, are the ones that are driven by our interest. So here I repeat that you take up research issues only if you find yourself interested in them. Then only you will be able to come out with good quality research that will make an impact in the profession and also around you. It is our duty, this we owe to our taxpayers who pay for our salaries, that we use our intellectual, for one, it is our duty to keep on enhancing our human capital, our knowledge base, our skill sets. And we impart that knowledge, that skill sets to our students. It is also our duty to pay to this society, to our taxpayers, to use our time, energy to deal with issues that are of relevance, importance, that are challenges for Indian society, Indian science, Indian economy. And it's always possible to look around and think of research issues that are important, that will contribute to better understanding, better policy making, that will make a difference in our surrounding. Either either our students will learn better, or the society in general, policymakers will learn more, will benefit from our research. So that research will count for something, and I hope you will keep this in mind.
Uh, yes, sir, there are no more questions.
All right, very good. Very good. So people should have tea now. Perhaps
Yes,
it's a good time to have tea.
yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your time
Okay.
and for such a lovely lecture. All the participants have really enjoyed your lecture, sir, and they are all posting words of appreciation for your lecture. And whatever doubts that they had or whatever questions that were posed to you, they have been very aptly solved by you. So thank you so
Okay.
much, sir. And I'm also thankful. I want to express my heartfelt thanks on behalf of Teaching Learning Center Ramanujan College, sir, for sparing your valuable time and delivering this lecture at such a short notice from me. So thank you so much for your time, sir.
You
And
are most welcome.
and
You are most welcome.
and in the future also, I would really like to have this association with you.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. I wish all the participants the very best. Please take care of yourself and all yours. Today, most important thing is to stay safe and stay healthy. And next important would be, of course, research that you can come to as soon as you can. I wish you and all yours safe, good health. Bye. Take care. May I log out now?
Yes, sir, you may know.
Okay.